Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today, on the table in front of us, we have another Harnds knife. This is the Harnds Warrior. This is a monster of a knife, and I'm kind of in love with it. Now, you guys know I like big knives. What does that look like? Well, it looks like, this. This is the ZT-030. Excuse me, this one happens to be the 0300. Or it can look like this. This, of course, is the Cold Steel 8010. The Harnds Warrior is size-wise on par here with the 8010. Actually, there's a little more blade to it. But whereas this is $200, this is $27 on Amazon. So what do you get for your $27? Well, you get a huge chunk of D2 tool steel. You get G10 scales on steel liners with a G10 backspacer. You do not get a deep carry clip, but with a knife this big, I'm oddly okay with that. You get the very nice Harnds logoed pivot. You get jimping where you need it. This is just really a remarkable knife for $27. The action is very good. You, of course, have a flipper and thumb studs for deployment. So this thing is useful in a number of ways. It is a monster. I want to be clear on that. It is a very, very big knife, but I like that. And if you're looking for a big knife, you might like it too. So let's get some measurements out of the way just so we know what we're talking about when I say big knife. We'll line this up on the line here. Get it nice and even. You get 1, 2, 3, about 3 3/4 of cutting on 4 inches of D2. The overall knife is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a little over 9 inches long. The handle area from just behind the flipper tab is 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches long. This is a very big knife, and I really like it, and I think you will too. It's not a razor blade because it is a thick chunk of D2 tool steel, but it does come down to a nice slicey edge. You've got beautiful belly at the tip and a wonderful flat. There is no smile back here at the plunge grind because they've got this nice sharpening choil. Look, a lot of thought and energy went into getting this just right. You've got these beautiful flats with this nice swedge. Personally, I think this is one of those beautiful blade shapes I have seen in forever. And again, it's $27. You've got jimping back here at the tail end that kind of locks your hand into place. You've got jimping, as I mentioned, across the top of the blade, right where you'd need it, here for pushing this way, and here for pushing this way. You've got jimping on the very back. I mean, if you're going to hold this thing, hammer grip style, not only do you have a ton of handle to latch onto here, but man, it is very comfortable. It is that kind of blocky rectangular handle that I have come to really appreciate because it fits almost anyone's hand. Now, if you've got small hands, this is not the knife for you, and that's okay. But if you've got big hands and you're looking for a tank of a knife for very little money, you cannot go wrong here. It's got a nice landing spot back here. So when you deploy the flipper, these are beveled in such a way that there are no sharp edges. In fact, all the sharp edges are knocked down on this knife, except the one place you really want them, which is right here on the blade. The pocket clip, okay. So the pocket clip. It is absolutely not deep carry. You have, 3/4 of an inch of knife sticking out. But I got to tell you, even in my big pockets, this thing is so long that keeping it from burying itself in the pocket works pretty well. And this is, this is not supposed to be a subtle carry. It really isn't. It's surprisingly well thought out. It's got only 3 screws. It's got the pivot and 2 at the back. On this side, it's got the pivot and the 2 at the back plus 2 for the pocket clip. The clip itself has plenty of room. as you can see. Lots of ramp and good spring. It is stamped steel. Look, I don't know who Harnds is. I don't know where they came from, but in the last few months, they have produced knife after knife after knife that I really enjoy. This is absolutely one of them. I mean, let's put it against the 8010. And as you can see, you get virtually the same amount of grip area, very similarly sized handles. You get a little more cutting area than you do on the 8010. Now, of course, the 8010 is S35VN, but after that, they are very similar. And in fact, this has become almost instantly the knife. When I show this to people and they say, oh, I want something like that, but I don't want to spend, $200, $190. I say, don't. Get one of these. This thing is fantastic. It's silly how awesome it is. It's not a light knife. Let's go ahead and weigh it out so we understand what we're talking about there. And it is not a light knife. That is absolutely true. But it's not trying to be. This is a heavy-duty outdoor worker. Well, let's see. Yeah, we are 6.8 ounces, which is a lot. But, the 8010 is also 6.8 ounces. So, again, weight-wise and overall size-wise, these knives are very comparable in many ways. And for your average user, this is such a good deal. I'm going to go ahead and grab the magic calipers here. Let's take a look at exactly, how much D2 you get. So back here at the thickest part of the blade, you get oh man, that is really shiny today. But anyway, it is 3.64 millimeters thick. It isn't monster thick. It isn't 4 millimeters or 5 millimeters. But what that means is that when it comes down here to the bottom of this grind, it is very slicey. Again, not a razor blade. It's a little too thick for that. But well done. And one of the things, and I'm not sure it's going to show up in the way the light's working today, they managed to get the grind dead even along the length of the blade. Now, one of the things that happens, particularly with budget knives, is the grind itself doesn't usually hold up that well. You get a little variation as you follow down the length of the blade. This has none of that. It is exceptionally well done. Now, if we move to inches, it is 0.58, so just below 0.6 inches, so it's a little thicker than a ½ inch. But again, this is not supposed to be a drop in the pocket and disappear knife. This is a well-designed, harder use, well, at least in concept, outdoor knife. And I love it. I do. For $27 to get as much thought as went into this thing is kind of absurd. And I want to be clear again, there is not a sharp edge except where you want one to be anywhere on this knife. It has been knocked down and then thoughtfully designed. The choil right here, which allows for the cutout for the lock bar, and you can see it as a liner lock, is exceptionally well done. There's plenty of lock bar showing, but it has been knocked down so that it is smooth, and yet you never miss. It is really very, very well done. The thumb studs deploy smoothly and easily, and yet they are set back away from the cutting path so they don't interfere. Lockup on this thing is surprisingly early. It's at about 20%, and yet I can't, there's no wiggle, there's no rock. I can't get this thing to fail. I have spine whacked it. It will not move past the lock bar. Harnds, yeah, look, in the world of budget knives, I mean, you guys know this. I've done a few Harnds now. They're absolutely my favorite right now. And it's because of stuff like this. Now, do I wish they'd have done this one up in their 14C28N like they've done so many of their other knives? Sure. But look, I've had this a while now. I've used it indoors and outdoors. I've used it on my father's property, which I take care of. I've cut everything from small branches to chipped away at larger pieces of wood. I have used it to cut rope, belt strap, you name it. And it has held its edge, well, exactly the way you'd want it to. Now, I don't know that anyone has tested this stuff out yet. I can't tell you if it's real D2. But here's what I do know. It holds an edge and doesn't take stain and does all the things that you want it to in such a way that, I don't know, I believe it's D2 based on my experience. Let's just put it that way. If you are, again, looking for a monster knife that will serve you indoors and outdoors, fit into your camping and outdoor gear exceptionally well, the Harnds Warrior in D2 is just an excellent choice. Let's do some size comparisons before we go. Here, of course, is our friend, the Benchmade Bug Out. Seriously? Right, okay. The Warrior is an enormous knife. Here it is against the Rat Model 1. Again, the Rat 1 is... Oh, it's very dirty. The Rat 1 is a large knife, but not when compared to the Harnds Warrior. This thing is really, really very big, and yet comfortable. Now look, I have big old monster hands. I get that. Knives that are comfortable for me probably won't be for everybody. But at this point, watching my channel, I think you guys probably know whether the knives that work for me work for you. So let me put it to you this way. If the other knives that I have shared that you have enjoyed work for you, this will as well. And again, 27 bucks. At $27, you can get it, and if you hate it, who cares? But I don't think you will. I think you're going to pick this thing up the same way I did, and your first thought is going to be, holy crap, this is good. Because it is. That's it. This has been the Harnds Warrior. I'll put a link down to in the description where you can find one of these. If you're looking for a monster knife that doesn't break the bank, if you're interested in whether or not a knife this big is for you, but you don't want to spend the 200 bucks, basically 170 to 200, depending on where you find them, right up front, you want to try out something a little more budget friendly to find out if a giant knife like this is up your alley. The Harnds Warrior is a great way to go. Thank you so much for watching. This has been A Therapeutic Edge. You have been my amazing audience. Please hit that like button on the way out. It does help the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I'd love to have you here on a regular basis, and we'll see you next time.